Imagine this, you walk into a Playcare room, the door shuts behind you, and CatNap emerges from the darkness. He doesn't run, he doesn't scream, he simply opens his mouth and releases a cloud of red smoke. In the game, it feels like a single breath is enough to instantly knock someone unconscious. But if we bring this into reality, the question becomes much more disturbing. How much gas would CatNap actually need to knock out a human being? According to the lore, CatNap is experiment 1188, connected to Playtime Co, and his red smoke is described as a semi-hallucinogenic sleep-inducing gas. The game's materials mention that this smoke was produced in the gas production zone used in Playcare to put children to sleep at night, and that in 1990 the smoke delivery system was connected directly to CatNap's respiratory system. In other words, CatNap isn't just a monster with magical breath, he's practically a living gas dispersion system. Now let's remove the fantasy and do a rough calculation. Imagine a small room 3 meters by 4 meters with a height of 2.5 meters. That's roughly 30 cubic meters of air for a gas to act not just as a smell, but as a substance that actually affects consciousness. Its concentration in the air has to become significant. In medicine, inhaled anesthetics are compared using something called MAC, minimum alveolar concentration. In simple terms, it measures how much of a substance has to reach the lungs before the brain and nervous system begin to shut down. But there's an important catch here. Red smoke is fictional. We don't know its chemical formula, so any calculation can only be hypothetical. If we assume it behaves roughly like an extremely powerful inhaled anesthetic, then creating a noticeable effect inside a room wouldn't require a tiny puff of smoke. It would require actual percentages of the room's air volume. For example, 1% of a 30 cubic meter room equals 0.3 cubic meters of gas, 2% equals 0.6 cubic meters. That is not a tiny breath cloud. That's an enormous volume of gas that would need to spread throughout the room evenly, and this is where the game's logic starts to break down. In Poppy Playtime, CatNap's gas works almost cinematically. You inhale once and reality immediately starts melting around you. But in real life, the human body doesn't shut off like a light switch. First comes respiratory irritation, dizziness, panic, and loss of orientation. And if the concentration keeps increasing, it stops being sleep and starts becoming toxic exposure with serious danger to life. Even real anesthetic gases in hospitals are administered under strict control, with equipment, oxygen regulation, dosage monitoring, and medical supervision. Organizations like OSHA and NIOSH specifically warn that waste anesthetic gases can become dangerous for hospital workers if ventilation systems fail or leaks occur. So if CatNap actually filled a room with enough gas to render someone unconscious, it probably wouldn't look like peaceful sleep. It would look more like this. Your thoughts slow down, your vision starts drifting, your heartbeat increases, and your brain desperately tries to understand why the air suddenly feels wrong. And the hallucinations from the game may not even be mystical. According to the lore, red smoke is explicitly described as semi-hallucinogenic. That means the horrifying version of CatNap the player sees might not even be the real creature at all. It could simply be the gas distorting perception itself. So here's the main conclusion. To incapacitate a person inside a small room, CatNap would likely need not just a few breaths, but hundreds of liters of active gas if we estimate using a 1 to 2% room concentration model. On paper, that may sound manageable, but in reality, a scene like this wouldn't resemble falling asleep. It would resemble a dangerous environmental poisoning event, which means CatNap's scariest ability might not be that he puts people to sleep. The truly terrifying part is this. If his gas works that quickly, then it would have to be unbelievably powerful. And if it's that powerful, then the next question becomes even worse. Why does it cause nightmares afterward?